history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
And I am Anthony C.A. And let us get to today's edition of the Hour of Politics. Welcome to the broadcast. As you heard there, we are about educating. We are about elevating the disco. And we are also about promoting all things Liberia in this case. We want to elevate the political discussion. We want to elevate the political issues. We want to elevate the analysis. We want to be able to dissect so that Liberians who are facing this daunting decision that comes their way this October 2023 will know what to do, because when they know the issues, when they see the size for who they are or what they are, chances are that they might be in a better position to decide who might be better for our country, who might be better for their conditions, and who might be able to make our country proud in terms of not only presidential representation, but also legislative representation. As you well know, comes 2023, we will not only be electing president, we will be electing senators and representatives. That is the task that the nation faces. That is the task the people of Liberia do face. The people of Liberia must do everything to get it right. Though we can say we enjoy peace, but what kind of peace is it when the children are hungry? What kind of peace do we have when we are filled with all of the challenges, from healthcare to education, from infrastructures, and you name it all? And you talking about living conditions of the people, the economic conditions. We all agree across all political spectrum that our country is indeed in a much, much deeper hole, and indeed in a much difficult place. And so how do we get out of this place is the question that we all have on our minds. And the way to do it in a democratic space is to go through a process called election. It is that process that is used by a country and its people to decide where they go from where they are to where they want to be. And so, folks, this election that is coming is that one that Liberians must get right, because we need to live a life befitting of every human being. But let me not waste your time with this introduction, with this premise, for the topic for today is a serious one. Today's discussion is on the topic Juxtaposing the Cummings rally and the Weah's return. That is a B word there. Even though I'm a crew member, I don't like B words that much, because sometimes the B words get you into trouble. And sometimes those for whom the message is intended, because you use so many B words, they do not understand what you're talking about. But we always hear from these educated people using this word so much. So what is it? Well, the word is juxtapose. So juxtapose, what does it mean before we go into the discussion? The word means to put things that are not similar next to each other. The word also means to put things or people next to each other in order to compare them. So that is what I will be doing today. So in today's presentation, I will be trying to compare the opposition's reason for the rally that was held. Opposition, in this case, the Cummings CPP, had a rally, and they were able to narrate and gave us a list of reasons why they had organized the rally and had executed the rally. Those reasons were communicated to the Liberian people. The Liberian people were called to show up and be able to express themselves. But of all the reasons that they have, they came off a single phrase or a single statement: we are tired of suffering. And they went on to say Liberia is suffering when it comes to education. Liberia is suffering when it comes to finding food. Liberia is suffering when it comes to process in the country. They said Liberia is suffering on every issue that has to do with living a better and fulfilling life. And so they have called on the people of Liberia that they needed to come to speak to the government that is their representation, that is charged with the constitutional responsibility to improve their materials and human conditions, to be able to hear from them that they need to do better and they are doing worse. So the We Are Tired Suffering rally was called, and all of the reasons for which that rally was called were articulated by the opposition CPP headed by Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings. But the CPP is not the only opposition. In Liberia, politically speaking, the public, the citizens, see the opposition as a single bloc, and they see the ruling coalition for democratic change as another bloc. So the rally that was organized, some people are of the view that it would have been well attended if the entire opposition community were to say endorse or have participated in that particular rally. But what we saw was other members of the opposition community criticized the rally, more so because it was not organized by them. Even though they have agreed that everybody in Liberia, or Liberians in their majority, are suffering, they could not form part of the rally because of the way it was organized. They felt that it was rushed. They felt that the faces of the rally, those who had organized the rallies, those who were the messengers of the rally, they were not best suited for the message "we are tired of suffering," because they believe these people have record that have contributed to most suffering in Liberia. So how could they then become the Messiah? So their message, according to them, based on what we hear from them, could have gone a little louder if they have gotten the backing and support of their friends within the opposition community, something that did not happen. But howbeit, they took their message to the president, they took their message to the CDC, they took their message to the government, and they were clear, they were bold, and they were loud enough, so to speak, that the Liberian people are suffering. And there is no disagreement whatsoever that indeed the people of Liberia are suffering. Just before Focus on Liberia could come live, one of our reporters in Liberia was able to cover a press conference held by the Monrovia Consolidated School System Teachers Association. They spoke to the media and they were very clear, and they did not miss their words on the conditions that teachers across the country, Liberia, are facing. So, folks, Liberia is challenged beyond measures at every level. So just as I was saying, the teachers had a press conference and they were clear by saying they don't even know what is their constant salary. They don't know what is their fixed salary anymore. So every time the government deposit money into their account as pay, it will not be the amount that they received prior. It will always be an entirely different amount. And so they are confused what is going on. And more to that, they are saying that their salary has been harmonized, and more so it is not on time. So these are citizens who are professionals and charged with the duty of preparing the young people of Liberia to take over the mantle of leadership in our country. And they are the ones who are struggling. They are the ones who are talking that they are hungry, that they are not able to feed their family and take care of their loved ones adequately, that their conditions are so bad of now compared to the previous years. They said during early time they knew what they were expecting in their accounts, and based on that they have planned how to take care of their families, and they articulated that they were happier, much more happier, because their salaries were on time and they knew what they were getting, and some of them were able to be in a position to help other family members. But comparing that to today's Liberia under this administration, they don't even know how much they're making. In fact, it's being cut, and most of it is not on time. And so life has become so much difficult for them. I said there to say that yes, we all agree that things are difficult. And one of the main reasons things are difficult in Liberia is because of the covering leadership that we have. President Weah has made so many promises to the people of Liberia, and he has not been able to improve the material conditions of Liberians. Living condition in Liberia has significantly declined. Significantly declined. He knows this. He knows this. His supporters also know this. They themselves are experiencing this. They complain about it. There is no debate whatsoever when it comes to how the Liberian people are doing economically. Their material conditions have gotten worse. Children are in school. Parents not in a position to pay their children's school fees. Businesses are struggling. Young people have zero or little opportunities. They don't have jobs. They are struggling. The increase of drugs in the country. This president took over after being overwhelmingly elected by the young people of Liberia. One who have thought the young people will be a priority, but it's obvious that is not the case. One way we can know is the Lone Star, the national team. Liberia is one of the worst performing teams in Africa when it comes to sports. President Weah is president today because of the game called football. He played. He did excellently well. He became an icon. He had the support of the Liberian government and many others who saw sports as a career and wanted to promote him, wanted him to succeed. They gave him everything, even though he put in some work, just as many young Liberians are putting in all the work. They want to be like President Weah. They want to be like many other stars. One who have taught President Weah at least will do everything to make Liberia to be promising in terms of competition when it comes to the game of football that we all love, for which we all came to love the man President Weah. This is his area. And what did he do? President Weah has even cut significantly the budget of football and sports in Liberia. So folks, I said that to contrast that President Weah is obvious, might be doing some things, but one thing remains constant, is the fact that many Liberians are complaining about their conditions. Folks in government are even complaining about their condition. But the irony is that these very people, not all of them though, some of them who support President Weah remain in his corner despite of the conditions that they are facing. And so, to make this brief as much as possible, the opposition took the fight to President Weah. They complain about he flying private jet. They complain about all the failed promises. They complain about being so insensitive. They complain about even flying out of the country for 48 days And President Weah and his government to this day refuse to inform the Liberian people how much that trip cost the taxpayers of Liberia. And while President Weah was away, the opposition were able to highlight many of the things the government could be handling appropriately that the government had been struggling with. The issue of census that started on a very chaotic level. The fact that they were not able to train the census enumerator adequately. They didn't even get paid on time. They were protesting. And the fact that elections coming, there was a timetable released for voter registration. That too was suspended and postponed, and we don't know when we will ever start the voter registration. We are talking about 11 months to election. We also know there is a history of our government either very slow in providing all the necessary funding needed for the conduct of all elections, and every election will either be postponed or delayed, or there will be challenges, a lot of issues, because adequate funding has been an issue. And how much more when we are talking about a general presidential election? Chances are that we may have the highest number of people running for the Senate and the House of Representatives in our lifetime. I'm very sure the number of people who will run for president will reduce. But if you compare that with the number of people who will be running for the Senate and also the House of Representatives, we are talking about a huge number of candidates across the country who will be canvassing. And so for us to have a peaceful transfer of power, it hinges on the conduct of a free, fair, and transparent election that is funded. And when we are talking now about, say, they want to bring the biometric system, this census thing, they said they wanted to also, they have introduced the biometric system. It was a failure from the start. I don't know how is it going now. Now, just before, about the time the census could start, the president left the country. Now, so this is the president who on his deck, there are so many audit reports. Not most of the audit reports have not come to a logical conclusion. And in addition to people criticizing the president for all kinds of decisions that he made in the past, and that those decisions are affecting the country, and the country, some people even argue that the country is not respected anymore because of the way President Weah governs the country. We have the issue of passport scandal non-stop. It's not one time, I think it's about 2 times. And I don't know what has been done. And there will always be one investigation after the other. None of the investigation will come to a logical conclusion. So people are like, the country Liberia is without a leader because they believe President Weah is an absent-minded leader or a leader who is not in charge. Now, we also have a lot of things that are going on in Liberia. In fact, since President Weah came to power, every budget was submitted late. And this is the president that's traveling outside of the country when civil servants were not paid, when we were struggling as a nation finding money to pay our census workers. And then he flew outside of the country, and to this day they have refused to tell how much he spent. And now he has returned, and there is a narrative that the government has not been able to, explain to us how much President Weah was able to accrue, all right, on this particular trip. So the opposition, CPP in particular, in President Weah absent, they saw a vacuum. They saw that the people were suffering and there was no leadership, and it was time for them to send a message. So they came out, they organized a rally, and the opposition, CPP itself, I'm not sure if they did a good job with the publicity. I'm not sure if they were robust enough with their messaging. I'm not sure they were able to find our way. I'm not sure they were able to find our way to bring out the people in their numbers. What we saw was that the government had introduced some tactics to discourage them, to discourage the people from not coming out. The government was hesitant to approving the space that they had applied for their rally. But After back and forth, they approve it. They were granted, the opportunity to have their rally. And what we know is that this government, that when it was in opposition, protested relentlessly, has not been happy, has been afraid of protest. Every time this government heard about protest, the government is like, wow, the protest will end our political life. I don't know why is that so. And so the government will always do things that will discourage the people, that will put fear in folks on the side of the opposition to come out. So the opposition folks, CPP, saying, look, we could have had a better attendance if the government had not, play all these tactics to discourage our people. And but if you look on the other side, the president was coming from the 48-day trip, and he decided to have a welcome ceremony at the airport. As though that was not enough, there was another ceremony at a church, the Wingers Church, where the president decided to speak to Liberians from the pulpit. I was of the view that since the president had left the country for over 48 days, and having boasted that the trip was necessary, and the country Liberia stands to benefit significantly for that trip, and that it was a necessary trip, and that while he was away, he was still in charge, and the government was running effectively, and he needed to make the trip to bring the goods home. I would have thought almost everybody, everyone was of the opinion that the president was able to at least grant a press conference for the first time in his life, where media professionals and institutions will be able to ask questions that they have on their minds, that Liberians have on their minds, for the president to be able to address them. Instead, the president chose his regular route, where he will not be held accountable, where he will be able to speak as he would love to. He went to a church, did not take a single question from any media. The media was not even granted the opportunity to ask questions at the airport. They drove to a church, and there he was preaching a sermon in his own language and in his way. And then a winker who will come to President Weah's rescue and will not be on the side of the people. So President Weah chose a church because everything he wanted to say, he wanted nothing but amen. He never wanted to be challenged. He never wanted to face the Liberian people in a serious way. They did similar thing when he was in Washington, D.C. There was, quote unquote, this town hall supposedly supposed to be open to all Liberians, for him to be able to take questions from Liberians. Again, the president chose not to take questions. They have to give us the best excuses, even though they were flimsy enough for any serious-minded people to believe. That is what they chose to do. That is what they did. And so people felt that, well, maybe when it comes to Liberia, he might be a little more comfortable. Maybe folks in the U.S. Who have jobs, who can at least feed themselves, will be brave enough to ask him questions. So let's go to a territory where some people might be a little more intimidated of the all-powerful government and may not be able to ask serious questions. That was one expectation. Even at that, the president chose to go to the church so that everyone would say amen to whatever he had to say, and that is what he did. In addition to that, the president took the time to go to his party headquarters, and he started throwing jabs, and he started swinging at the opposition. He got in his political mode, and he started throwing punches. One who have thought, now that the president had been far too long away from his country, when his people and citizens needed him to provide leadership, and now that he was not there, and that he has returned, he will be able to speak to the issue of the census, that he will be able to speak to the issue of the voter registration, that he will be able to speak to the issue of salaries. He will be able to speak to the issue of rice shortage, the price of rice that have gone up, what will be his first business. He chose not to address any of the things that were happening in the country in his absence, but he chose to pick a fight just because some group, the opposition in particular, decided to organize a rally, something that he, President Weah, when he was in opposition and his party did not stop. That is what he chose to do. He chose not to speak to the ordinary man who is concerned about the next meal tomorrow because the price of rice has gone up. He's not concerned, he was never concerned about speaking to somebody who is concerned about the prices of transportation in Liberia. I think Liberians wanted to hear from their president to have been presidential. They wanted to have heard from their president, to have been a little more sensitive to their concerns, to their pains, and to their suffering. President Weah agreed with the folks that organized the rally that indeed the Liberian people are suffering. Jefferson Koji, the last time Focus on Liberia covered a press conference in Negro area, and he agreed Liberian people are suffering. Again, no argument whatsoever. But what has this president been doing? Under his watch, the price of rice has gone up. Now, that is another economic debate that may not have strength in, right? But that is a reality. It has gone up. At least can the president provide a logical explanation to his people? Because we know this rice thing is a serious issue in Liberia. Now, one of the promises President Weah made was the issue of agriculture. Does he even have a farm as a president, to send an example? One who have thought, trying to start a farm who have been a much better way, just as President Weah started a whole purpose suit, myself included, we all started wearing purpose suit because he's the leader of a country and he set that good example. And so all of the ministers would love to be in that purpose suit. Only if President Weah, as he and his party promised, that agriculture will be one of the ways to get our people out of poverty and create opportunity for young people, one who have thought President Weah will have a farm and will encourage his ministers to have farm. One who have thought President Weah will make more money available for farmers so that they will be able to go back to the soil and produce food. Now, to make matters worse, the subsidy that the government has provided in order to balance the price of rice, there is no accountability whatsoever. While the government provides subsidy, the price of rice has gone up. Whatever they done to the subsidy, no one knows. So folks, indeed, we as a country, we are at a crossroad. And so, of all of the things the opposition, some advocates and other Liberians have talked about in terms of their concerns, the direction of our country, the living condition of our people, in terms of infrastructural development, in terms of basic social services, all of these things, Liberians want to see quality. Liberians want to see improvement. Liberian wants to see leadership, a transformative leadership, leadership in every area. Liberians want to see investment in their country. They have every right to want those things because that is the reason why people elect government. Because that's not everything the people can do for themselves. The people cannot pay roads. The people cannot be the one to pay hospitals, even though private individuals can build their clinics. But providing healthcare, providing education, providing infrastructures, the road, our airports. I mean, you people know what has been happening at our airports. People's life has been at risk because the airport is not properly managed. We have an airport that is running on generators. Is that sustainable? There has not been a perfect solution to that to now. And President Weah, while we had a serious issue, he went and appointed somebody who has zero qualification when it comes to management of an airport. So people said, so what is this president actually serious about leadership here? If you look at some of the people who are in offices in this government, you know that many of them either are not well placed, either not qualified, either not to the task, and yet the president maintains them I don't want to talk about the issue of corruption, the fight against corruption. Folks, you know it. President Weah is not serious about the fight against corruption. He has not demonstrated leadership when it comes to the fight against corruption. And many people have even accused him that he leads the way when it comes to corruption. He doesn't declare his asset to show it to the Liberian people. He hides it. He built condominiums. He acquired himself a private jet. He promised the Liberian people the wings of Liberia, the Lone Star Air. We have not seen it, but what we continue to see is his own jet, something he said he had borrowed to boost his morale. He's still boosting his morale. Now, the cost of the jet is not even known. He flies it though. So, folks, and he does this thing while teachers are having press conferences about not knowing how much they are making and that they are paid not on time. The same can be said about nurses in Liberia. So, folks, the challenges are overwhelming. The conditions are just worsening by the day. And Liberians are left alone to fend for themselves while the government cares about the politics. And so with all of this that's been said, the opposition to not being able to get their act together, something that contributed to the poor attendance of their rally. And more so, the very opposition, there was a $70,000 that was allegedly stolen. And up to now, we have not gotten any update. They are not updating us. From the time they confirmed to the Liberian people that yes, indeed, certain amount of money was stolen from a supposedly $70,000, we are yet to get a single update. This is the same behavior that President Weah carries on. Something happens, they will not update the Liberian people. They will choose to remain silent. They will tell us that, oh, we are investigating, and there will not be any other update. That is the end of story. Should that be the case with the opposition also? I mean, you are trying to project yourself as the better side, and you do not put any risk management into place. A 70,000 United States dollar got missing among your midst, allegedly stolen by a driver, and it's taking you weeks now to tell us at least where we are now with your so-called investigation that you launched. And so looking at all this and the characters within the opposition who became the faces of the particular We Are Tired Suffering rally, President Weah saw an opportunity. He did not see the opportunity to address the concerns of the Liberian people. He saw an opportunity to pick a fight with his political opponents in the opposition, because it seems to be the opposition have always been in this habit of giving President Weah the opportunities to strike. Just as President Weah continues to give the opposition more reason for them to attack, except that in my judgment, they have not been able to have taken maximum advantage of all of the givings President Weah has given them to put them on the side of the Liberian people. The idea of a protest is a constitutional right, or rally was a constitutional, or has been, or is a constitutional right. Did they do well with that? Why it took them this long to carry or take their political action? How could they have done it better? Could they have done it better? Yes. Could they have done it better for it to register a loud and profound message of the suffering people to the government? Yes, they could have. Did they achieve it? I'm not sure they did. I mean, should they be crying baby that the government undermine it and some of their colleagues undermine it? Yes. We can't ignore the reality. Some people are afraid. Some people are cowards. When they feel threatened, they will not show up. But hey, that is for another day maybe. So where is President Weah now? With all of the things that have been thrown at him, the serious governance issues that his government is challenged with, instead of being the governor of the country, he chose the easy route. First, to not take questions from the media. Second, to not address the concerns of the people. but to settle for the low-hanging fruit, which was to throw jabs at the Liberian people. And so President Weah said a whole lot of things, and I will do a brief analysis of those things right away. For example, President Weah said, while away, the matters of the state were executed expeditiously, and seditions were yelling all over the place because of the war expeditiously. I mean, President Weah used such a good word, and and it was well placed, which was a rebuttal of what the opposition folks have been saying, that the government, the country is on autopilot. It is without a leader, and some are even saying President Weah is a zeros president. President Weah came to say, hey, I'm not sure you have an argument here. I'm not sure you are right on this one. This is a democracy here. I'm a president, I agree, but when I leave somebody in charge. In fact, while I'm away, I'm in touch with whoever I left in charge. In fact, we have a vice president. We have, ministries and agency. The institution of government is working. I don't necessarily have to be here physically. So what are you talking about here? So President Weah was able to to push back on the fact that the president, the country is on autopilot, and we don't have a leader that is in charge. President Weah will go on to strike back to say everything that they said is wrong, they are the ones who spoil it. He is accusing or throwing the thing at the opposition. Say, look, everything that's spoiled in this country, everything that's wrong with the country, that's not me. Now, this is President Weah trying to say, well, all of the challenges that we are facing today, you can't blame me. In fact, he went further by saying, we are trying to fix everything that you destroy. Who was President Weah talking to? Was President Weah honest here with this particular statement that he made in his response and to the opposition community? What is everything that they spoiled that he's talking about? How are they wrong on everything that he's trying to correct here? Well, President Weah will also go on to say, all the things you see here, we are the one fixing them. And then he went on to say, then he came to come and say, well, why are they carrying gun to the rally? It said to kill people. So President Weah is saying, well, they're having a rally. We granted them the permission to rally. We are in a democracy, and but then they are carrying guns to the rally. These are some of the reasons why sometimes we don't want to approve a rally. Do you as a president have a constitutional right to deny your citizens their constitutional right? Doing so will be a violation of that constitutional right. There are certain rights that cannot be curtailed. Constitutionally speaking, is a group of citizens' right at any time of their choosing to decide to assemble peacefully as called for by the Constitution. Now, that did not constitute any threat to the government. That did not constitute any insecurity to the country, instability to the country. So they had every right. So for President Weah to have floated the idea that he as a president had the power to say no to them, I don't know what he was trying to communicate. But the jab he threw then is that, hey, that's why we don't want to allow you to rally sometimes or protest sometimes. Why will you carry a gun? Did he carry a gun to kill people? And the fact is that sometime back, President Weah, Sekou Kalasko, who is his presidential aide, was seen with a pistol. He carried similar gun that was seen with Mr. Cummings' security. So when Kalasko was seen with that gun, people were shocked. Kalasko is carrying a gun. Is he a licensed gun owner in Liberia? Is he qualified? What does our law say about carrying a firearm in the country? Can any citizen carry a firearm in Liberia? Or is it folks who are in the military, paramilitary, the police are the one who have the right to carry or arm? What does our law say? I did not do any good research on that before coming live. But the fact is, Kalasko carry arm. And Carrasco has said, when the criticism came, when people were amazed, how could this be? Carrasco said, well, he was authorized to carry a gun. So that tells me that if Carrasco, had the audacity to say he was authorized to carry a gun, it means that private citizens are authorized in Liberia to carry arms, and I want to believe the law should be able to allow private citizens to carry arms in as much as it's registered, in as much as the government approve, give them the authorization to say so. So if Carrasco were telling the truth, then I can say, well, maybe that is true. People are authorized to carry a gun. But here's the fact too, though. In Liberia, under Liberian Penal Code, that is chapter 17, section 17.11. Section 17.11 or chapter 17 of the Liberian Penal Law specifically says when it comes to gun ownership or the carrying of firearm in Liberia, that anyone who is carrying a firearm that is not registered with the government or that is not authorized with the government, that person is in illegal possession of a firearm. So it has become clear now that Mr. Cummings' security was not authorized, was not permitted, did not register that gun, was not given that right and privilege by the government to carry the gun. To carry a gun, you must be licensed, you must be given the authority by the proper authority in a country or in a county or any governmental locality. You must be given that authority, that right by the appropriate authority. In this case, it is clear now that Mr. Cummings' security did not get the legal blessing of the authority that has the responsibility to do so. So he was arrested. He was taken to the Liberian National Police. Preliminary investigation was done. My understanding is that, according to report, he was charged with illegal possession of a firearm and the probability of unleashing or using a lethal weapon. And so he has been charged and has been sent to court. And if he's guilty of being in possession of arm illegally, he might well go to jail, except whether there is a legal way out for him to get out of that. So the lawyers will tell you more on that. So there was Mr. Weah saying now with this story that, look, Mr. Cummings, you organizing a rally and then your security is carrying an arm. This man here has not been able to speak to it. So the President Weah was diverting the conversation. All right. He was trying to lead the conversation to his area of strength. He said, look, you are the one, calling a rally and your security is carrying a gun, and up to now, the man has been arrested. You are not being able to speak about it. So he's taking Cummings to task. He's taking the fight to Cummings on this issue. He went on to say, look, this man, Mr. Cummings, he speaks on everything in this country. He will say, everything I do, he will give speech. I travel, he gives speech. I don't travel, he gives speech. So that was we are going after Cummings. That Mr. Cummings is in a constant habit of holding press conferences, making speeches almost on every error or every move that President Weah makes. And so Weah is saying, if you are this guy who will speak about everything, I'm in the bathroom, then you will go and say something. But the direct quote from President Weah, everything I do, he will give speech. I travel, he gives speech. I don't travel, he gives speech. President Weah speaking there. And so he went further by saying, now your security is being arrested of being in illegal possession of a firearm, which is a violation of our laws. The Penal Code chapter 17, section 17.11, that is a violation. Can you now have a speech on that? Can you come clean on that? President Weah is taking a fight to Cummings on that. Now let's put it the other way. When Sekou Carrasco was seen with a gun, Was there an investigation? Did anybody care to do an investigation whether Sekou Kalasko said the truth that his gun was registered and that he was authorized by the government to carry the gun? Did President Weah himself say something when Sekou Kalasko was seen with a gun? Why wasn't Kalasko arrested? Why was Cummings security arrested? Was Kalasko not arrested because he's close to power and that's his government, they are in charge? Did he even tell the truth? If he did not tell the truth, was he now then in violation of Chapter 17, Section 17.11 of the Penal Code when it comes to the carrying of firearm in Liberia? Did anybody even care to do a follow-up? Did the police care to do a follow-up? So now it's President Weah throwing jabs at Cummings, taking a fight to him politically, and trying to hold him accountable. But this very President Weah, when his guy Sekou Kalasko were carrying firearm, was seen with firearm, he said nothing. To this day, he said nothing. The police did not intervene to ask Sekou Kalasko questions for them to inform the Liberian people whether or not what Sekou said was true, that he had the legal blessing of the government to carry the firearm. To this day, we don't know. Chances are that Sekou Kalasko is in illegal possession of a firearm. Why didn't the president say something? Why didn't the police investigate? Why didn't the police come to tell us whether Sekou was right? And if Sekou told a lie, that means he lied to the country. That means he would have lied to a law enforcement officer. That itself is a crime. President Weah said nothing, and now he's holding Cummings accountable. Somebody might say that is hypocritical. Now, President Weah also going after Cummings, he said, look, he sat at the SKD witnessing his lawmaker insult ministers in the presidency, and he did nothing but to clap his hands. So President Weah is taking a fight. I told you the thing politics, you know, we are in the middle, we have no side. Our business here as a media institution is to bring these things to you in much more clearer ways that you can see for yourself. So this piece is juicy. And the fact is, Cummings is a political leader of the ANC. We know Yeka Koluba has been a member, even though you will say he resigned and he will come by. Yeka Koluba supports Mr. Cummings. Yeka Koluba was at the rally. Does President Weah have a point here? Yes, he does. Yeka Koluba, many of you who have not seen his recent interview done by Jala TV, is still on Facebook. Go to Jala TV and watch it. This guy spoke disgracefully. He rained insults, insults that not befitting of any elected official. This man displayed inventives in a manner that you will never and ever see an elected official or an official of government to carry on in your lifetime. He insulted the president directly. He insulted the Minister of Justice directly, just because he disagreed with them that somebody who was a security, who was charged by the Ministry of Justice on criminality, was like free and became a member of one of the security one of the security arms in Liberia, or organizations in Liberia, or institutions in Liberia, and that person is carrying a weapon. That was Yeka Koluba reason for insulting the president directly and insulting the Justice Minister directly. And many of you know Yeka's behavior. Yeka has always justified his behavior, his bad examples, on the fact that he's being harassed by the government. that the government is on his back, so he has no other option other than to rain insults at the president and to rain insults at other officials of government. He has been in a constant habit, and he supports Mr. Cummings. And he was seen at this rally organized by Mr. Cummings, by the CPP. And Cummings has said nothing. In fact, when Yaka Koloba had traveled with Mr. Cummings to Grand Gila County, when Yaka Koloba displayed similar behavior, when Cummings faced the press on this question, he justified that, well, he doesn't talk like that, and that Yeke has his style, and you know, that's why he chose to do. Why can't Cummings be bold that I disagree with Yeke? What is wrong with that? What is wrong with Cummings saying, I disagree with Yeke with the manner in which he speaks, and that no official of government who is a servant of the Liberian people. When you are an official of government, you are a representation of not only the people of Liberia, but also the country Liberia. And whatever comes from your mouth that is not representative of the people, it has a reflection on the country and its people. It means that you have become an embarrassment, a disgrace, and a bad representation of the country and its people. That is what Yeke Koloba has done all along. And yet Cummings, who claims to say we can't be doing the same thing over and over, who said nothing, at least to disagree with Yeke Koloba, he will see absolutely no reason to do so. And yet he claims he's yet to do things differently. So here is Cummings, who clearly made Mr. Louis Brown the face of this rally that many are saying failed. My opinion on the rally is they did what they could do. I think that is their best they could do. Was it good enough for me? I don't think it was good enough. But to their supporters were good enough, given the obstacles that they had. And that at least they were able to bring at least 1,000. Some people put it at 3,000. According to our reporter who covered it from day one to the end, he said, well, his estimate, people using their eyes here based on who all they saw. He said, well, he will put it at 1,000 plus who had gathered. Maybe people were going and leaving. Some people don't have the money to stay there throughout the time. They have to find something to eat. And President Weah go as far as saying, look, in fact, during the rally, we fed them. Now, that has not been independently verified by Focus on Liberia, that the Liberian National Police that we know is suffering, that does not even have a fitting uniform, who are even in pain and suffering today because the government is not catering to the needs of our police. They are the ones that are feeling protesters or ralliers. Now there's a history though. There were, I think, 2 occasions when we saw the police giving water to protesters, especially for June 7. They did that, so they have that little history. But that has not been confirmed at this particular rally, whether the Liberian National Police carry food and water to feed the folks that went there for the rally. But President Weah is claiming they did that. Focus on Liberia has not been able to confirm that, so we cannot speak to the truthfulness of President Weah's claim that his people were able to feed the ralliers and that they were able to provide water for them. I'm not sure if President Weah was able to feed the people that attended his welcoming ceremony at the RRA and those at the party headquarters. I'm not sure they were able to feed all of them. I'm not sure they were able to pay all of them well. I'm not sure if they were able to give all of them water to drink. And I'm not sure they were able to meet their needs for that day, because they have enticed them to come and celebrate President Weah because he has come from a 48-day trip, used government money, and would not tell us how much money was used. But he wanted these people in their suffering to come and celebrate him. They were even able to provide them t-shirts, and some of them wanted t-shirts because sometimes it's just tough that you need that t-shirt to get out some days, right? I'm not sure he was able to provide everything those people needed to attend that particular event that he and his party had called for. So to say that the police that he cannot pay, that the government is struggling to pay, that the government is struggling to provide all of the things that they need in terms of supplies, uniform. Our Liberian National Police uniform is a disgrace and embarrassment for our country. Fail, no shoes, no boots whatsoever. And they are telling us that they are failing people. Well, we wait to see who is telling the truth there. Now, during that rally too, President Weah went after Joseph Yuma. He went after Buaka by saying they have been serving government since 1979 and they have not changed anything. He continued, he served as agriculture minister, he even served as vice president. They did not change anything in this country. So this is the Liberian leader, or the Liberian leader, who has come from an unusual and unprecedented criticized trip that he feels and believes and thinks was necessary, and Liberia stands to benefit so much, but then will not make a decision to explain and give the Liberian people a report that will convince them that that trade was necessary, because see how much we've been able to accomplish. But he chose to take a fight to his opponents and went after Joseph Yuma. Agriculture ministers been in government since 1979, served as vice president, didn't change anything around here. That's what the president report. But if you look at it on the other side, to be fair to the president, he gave his report, went to Morocco, we had conversation. There is some form of intervention to be made at the National Port Authority. The people will be coming. We went to Qatar. There is a verbal, this is a verbal promise or a verbal commitment made by the they call it Emir of Qatar, that they will contribute some kind of unknown amount, I believe, in financing one of the road projects in Liberia. That is a pronouncement. We don't know whether it will come to fruition. And also they are boasting about a $165 million that the U.S. government pronounced that has been set aside to fund the election of 6 African countries that are coming within the next 12 months or so. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Nigeria will be first in February, and then other countries, and ours is in October. And so they are saying, well, since the 165 million United States dollars, we're talking 6 countries. If you do the math, chances are Liberia will be getting around $20 million. So they are saying that is an achievement. $20 million to fund your election, is your responsibility. It's an achievement for our country. Are they trying to suggest to us that if the U.S. were not to commit to provide some money, we will not be able as a country to raise all the money for the conduct of our election? And this is supposed to be a pride? And this is supposed to be an achievement that we're supposed to be proud of as a country? And we are supposed to be celebrating the president that he went to beg for money, and now we have money. How long have we not begged? How long are we going to continue to beg? We have begged for far too long. We continue to beg. The begging has not paid off our roads. The begging has not reformed of our institution. The begging has not given us the schools. The begging has not given us all the hospitals we need. The begging has not been able to train all our teachers. Why are we still relying on begging as a country? Is this the best we can do? That's part of the land that we have as a people. That's part of the youthful population that we have, with the energy and the vigor to be able to pull these people to work in the area of agriculture, in the area of technology. We have the Indians are eating our lunch. Historically speaking, we are tied to America. At least we speak English. Now you have people in Bangladesh, in India, who are now working for Google because they train these people in the area of technology. As we speak, none of your political leaders has been able to communicate a massive computer literacy program, one who have thought that it will come from a CDC, a government that were overwhelmingly elected by the young people. Why is it as we speak, we don't have computers in every government institution in Liberia? How difficult it is to procure computers, and that every government institution in Liberia should have computer labs, and that there should be time for the children to go and learn computer. There are Liberians across the world who have studied computer science. This thing is not difficult. How to operate a computer? What are we doing? The world that we live in today has been powered by technology. Computer is a huge part. The internet is a huge part. And our young people are zogos. And there's no serious rehabilitation process in place for them. And these very hungry people would rather be in t-shirts to go and celebrate a man while they wear slippers. And they don't see. Now, President Weah still throwing his jabs here. We'll go to say, stop buying sympathy from the disenchanted youths in Liberia. First of all, let us ask, why are the youth disenchanted? Because President Weah is saying the youth are disenchanted. There got to be a reason why they are disenchanted. If there is a reason why they are disenchanted, somebody must be the one who is responsible for that. Can we ask that question, and can we provide the answer to know who is in the right here? So yes, he's right. The youth of Liberia are disenchanted. There's a reason why they are disenchanted. One of the reasons is because the government is supposed to be providing opportunities for the young people who overwhelmingly voted for the president. They have no jobs. They have no opportunity. They don't have access to computers. They don't have access to the internet. When it comes to sport, there are no academies, not a single one being built by the president. Not a single one, even though soccer made him. Not a single one as we speak. So the youth are disenchanted today because this government has failed very miserably to provide them the opportunities they need as a young people in the area of technology, computer science, and sports. Zero. Zero, zero, zero. And let us come to trade. Let us come to vocational educations. How are we doing with our vocational institution? What is the funding being provided for our vocational institutions for the young people to get the skills that they need so that they can become carpenters and any other trade that is useful for the development of our country? How much money are we investing in our vocational institutions? How well are we training our teachers? How well are we preparing the teachers and giving them the necessary tools? Now when it comes to census, they say they will bring a not tablets, they're not laptop but tablets to train the people. It was a failure. They are talking about another set of tablets and biometric system for the National Election Commission. Come to think about it, just voter registration could not start on time. It has to be extended cancer. And then the procurement of tablets and the training thereabout for the young people, you think it will be done 11 months to election? When every political leader now is focusing how to win the election, when we have not even gotten to the point of cleaning the voter roll. Folks, the topic for today is juxtaposing the Cummings rally and the Weah's return. The meaning of that word is to put things that are not similar next to each other. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at the opposition's rally and the reasons for their rally. And we are also looking at the president's response to the rally and all of the things the oppositions have been saying when it comes to leadership in Liberia. The word also means to put things or people next to each other in order to compare them. So this is more like a comparative analysis of the rally, the reason, the execution, and also the president's trip, his handling of the country, and his responses to all of the things the opposition folks have said. And so what Focus on Liberia is doing is providing an analytical explanation for you to know what the people are up to here. No press conference, no question taking. The president had no interest. He went to a usual church so that everybody will say amen. And he is talking about the youth being the disenchanted youth are being taken advantage of by the opposition. So I go back to the point. President Weah is responsible for the young people being disenchanted today. It's been 5 years now since he got into office. Now, during Ellen Johnson Sirleaf time, yes, we have disenchanted youth, predominantly who were seditionists. They too were disenchanted. They were disenchanted because they felt there were no opportunities. And that is why they elected President Weah, because President Weah had assured them he will make their conditions better so that they will not be disenchanted. But yet President Weah is admitting that the disenchanted people that he has given hope, he failed to give them hope, but he has issued them hopelessness. And he's admitting they are disenchanted, but yet he blames it on the opposition. He blames it on previous government. And now he says the opposition are the one trying to take advantage of the disenchanted youth. So I say now, if you have not disenchanted the youth with the failures, with the lack of opportunities for them, chances are that the opposition, if you are right, will not be taking advantage of them. But on the other side is, what is President Weah doing too? Is he not taking advantage of the disenchanted young people? Because the young people are also disenchanted with the opposition. Many believe that the opposition does not have it as together. And the opposition is entitled in chaos and confusion. They don't have bold ideas. They don't have plans. They're all over the place. They're not taking the fight to the president. So the opposition is not giving the young people that much hope at all. So isn't President Weah now taking advantage of these young people, predominant seditionists, who would rather leave him because their conditions are not better, but cannot go now because the very opposition they could rather put their faith in are themselves not up to the task of holding President Weah accountable? So if you look at it, these two sides are taking advantage of the disenchanted youth of Liberia. What is JMB plan for the youth of Liberia? How has it been articulated? Does he even have a plan? He doesn't have one. What is Cummings' plan for the young people of Liberia? How has he been able to engage them? Does he even have a plan? We know that he has something on his website. The same can be said about Tiawan Gonglo. What is Tiawan Gonglo's plan? He has a 10-point plan that he continues to articulate. Is it good enough? What is in there for the young people? Has he been able to get that message to the young people, to give them hope, so that they will be able to trust him with their votes? And above it all, to close this analysis, President Weah, after he said all of that, will go on to say, don't break down the country with your too many protests. It is not the common people you are harming. He said it is the common people that you are harming. President Weah is saying the opposition community is harming the country with too many protests. Is President Weah in the right place yet to say so? Why is CDC so afraid of protests when they protested throughout? President Weah party was the king or the King Kong of protest. They were like, the giant of protest from Zion. They were the giant of protest from Zion. They were the King Kong of protest. They were the one, even in their protest, who even displayed the honor clothes of a certain president. They were the ones, even in their protest, were told casted that would symbolize something. And here he is, who forgotten what his party did when it came to protest, sleeping in front of U.S. Embassy, claimed that they were advocating for war crime code, and now Prince Johnson is a body. His party chairman welcomes Prince Johnson at his party headquarters. This party will go to Nimba County and will have a party with Prince Johnson, a murderer of the first order, all in the name of politics. And he is telling us that too many protests will break down the country. Protests did not break down the country when it had so many protests. Why does he want to believe it will do now? Protests did not break down America during the days of Dr. Martin Luther King. In fact, it changed America. Protests did not break down India during the days of Gandhi. In fact, it gave the Indians freedom. So what is he talking about? Is he a student of history here? So President Weah couldn't be wrong. Protest, peaceful assembly is necessary in a democracy. It gives citizens the right to vent their frustrations and calm down their mental tension. We don't want any opportunity of others, or we don't want to give anyone reason to go back to Butuo. So let them express themselves now. And President Weah will conclude to say, if you feel we are not doing well, go to the ballot box and not in the street. President Weah did not only go to the ballot box when he was in opposition. President Weah and his party were in the street all along. So for him to be saying that the opposition should go only to the ballot box and not in the street, he's not in the right place to say so. Because he did exactly what the opposition doing. In fact, it is the right of the citizen to do so. It is guaranteed under our constitution. His party protested and they went to the ballot box. You can do all two at the same time because our laws guarantee that right or those rights to protest, to rally, but peacefully, and at the same time to participate in an election. So President Weah is off point on this one. So the challenge has been thrown though by President Weah that take me to the ballot box. So let us talk about the ballot box to conclude this thing. Can we? So he wants the ballot box. Has he been good enough? Does he feel good about himself here? That he can take on the opposition and knock them out? I think he does. This is not President Weah first time saying this. In fact, of recent, he said we'll beat them again. That sounds like a challenge to the opposition. Opposition, I hope your ears are open wide. I hope you are putting your act together. I hope even if you're not work together, you will come with a collective strategy as you work individually. I hope Alice Cummings, the big mouth that will make President Weah a one-term president, is not just a loud mouth, but it will be backed by a plan, by a strategy, by tactics that are profound and that will get the job done. Tiawon Gonglo, the big mouth that you will win it on day one, first round. I hope you have the people, and I hope you will put in the work, and I hope you will find the money. And to you, Buaka, the big mouth that you are the only one who can take President Weah down, I hope you will find the money. I hope you will come up with a plan. I hope you will come up with a strategy. I hope you will come up with a team to get it done. We don't want big mouths. We don't want big empty talks. We want solid plans, strategies, finding the resources. The last time Weah was in an election, his party, to be specific, they could not even find money for pool washer, and in his home county of Lofa County, he got humiliated. The last time Weah was in a competition with this president, Weah again got humiliated and won only 1 out of 15 counties. That was a disaster. So for him to be lecturing us that he is the only one that can take President Weah down, that may be hopeful for his base. That may be inciting for his base. But what is the plan? What is the how? Where are the strategies? What is your team? Who are your surrogates? Do they have a message? You saw Weah on a private jet, like Weah in Nigeria, with his Bali Benina Yuri. And these guys were brave to tell us that they have gone to Nigeria to see how, they can find money to participate in the election. I heard that. I shook my head. I said, whoa, what is going on here? Doesn't our laws forbid foreign money being pumped into our election? But folks, maybe I shouldn't talk that one. Here is our president begging another country to fund our election. How is that not foreign money in our election? Or so is foreign money when a candidate goes and fund and source the funding for another country? Oh, that is when it becomes foreign money, right? So I'm going to leave that one. I'm going to leave that one. But shouldn't our leaders be respected of the law? Shouldn't they? They should be. They should be the example. For if we don't obey our laws, we become a country of men. When we become a country of men and not a country of law, which is more like what we have now, people don't get justice. And when people don't get justice, they take matter into their own hands. When people take matter into their own hands, the possibility of chaos and conflict coming to our doorsteps becomes a huge one. So talking about election, President Weah said, take me to the ballot box. I hope this government will find the money and on time. I hope the government will be able to train poll watchers, election workers, that they will be paid, that the voter roll will be clean, that they will invite investors, that the level playing field, that they will be able to, the biometric thing that I'm talking about, that all of the processes will be finalized and on time and will be tested, and that all of the parties will be involved, and that there will be no hidden agenda, and there will be no effort to cheat whatsoever. Because what we saw in Lofa County, and hear me well, based on our analysis of NEC own data, it's obvious that the numbers could not add up and something fishy happened. So folks, it was more than likely something was done out of the ordinary. And should we see that in the national election, that may be a potential for conflict. The government has a history of postponing nearly everything. Budget submission has always been, postponed. When it comes to what we call, what's the name? Somebody help me here. Budget performance reports. Something that's supposed to be done quality by the Ministry of Finance to the legislature. They have not even done one before talking about any of them being on time. To conduct census in our country was postponed 4 different times by this government. By this government. In 4 years period, they postponed census. They and the legislature postponed and extended census, and yet it started on the chaotic level. Voter registration has been extended also. Almost everything that is announced or has been announced to start on a particular day will not start on the date announced. It will have to be extended. We are talking about a general and presidential election that the peaceful transfer of power hinges on, or hangs on, or depends on. So just as they had to postpone census because they are either incompetent or don't have it in them to execute a constitutional mandate. They can wear too. Given the gravity of this election coming, they can extend it. And if they do, folks, chances are that we may not have that election in October. So October, November, December, the year ends. If they could not conduct census in 4 years, the election starts in October. If we can't have that election in October, can they execute that election in 3 months? So what happens if that is not possible? If we have to extend election or postpone election, what do we get? Do we go into the transitional government, something that we do not need in our country? I don't want to see Judy Bryant Part 2 here. For I know one when I see it. Transitional governments are always corrupt. It's all about how they chop. And we have so many choppers like Mangill and others. So folks, I hope as a media institution we did our best in giving you the analysis of the rally, the reasons for the rally. President Weah trimmed his responses to all of the things the opposition folks have said for their rally, and that you are now seeing clearly who all these political actors are, and that you will not get carried away now by what their surrogates say, because that's their job, to clean any mess up that their political gods can't call them leaders because they're not. Their political gods have to say. It's their jobs to clean it up. We just don't want you to get carried away by what they do, what they say. And so we will take a short break and read some comments. And after the comments, we will be bringing you our closing. So let's take a short break and we will go to comments here quickly. A short break and we will be right back.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jar.
And I am Anthony C.A. with this edition of the Hour of Politics. The Hour of Politics, you know, it is about politics. We do analysis of the political issues. We conduct interviews, we do panel discussions, and that's what we do as we elevate, educate, and promote all things Liberia. Now, let us hear from you, and let us hear you now. A man who can treat himself in time of illness, how can he care for millions of people? I think he meant to say, who cannot treat himself in time of illness, how can he care for millions of people? The man Murphy Deco writes, ABC, please put aside your pride or ego. Go back to JMB and seek forgiveness and go as VP. Don't end up like Kennedy Sandy. A hint to a wise, and I think he want to end is quite sufficient. That quote again. For the past 5 years, nightclubs have become the biggest investment in Liberia. Liberia is in a complete mess under George Weah. Murphy Deco is based here. We need to work 24 hours around the clock if we are to redeem Liberia from this mess of George Weah. Let's hear from Denny Phillips. Even in the US, the most celebrated democracy in the world, the 2020 census is yet to be completed, Mr. CA. At least it was at a good start, I would think so. Jimmy again. No foundation to start on to do good job. Liberian people only know how to talk well, but they don't do the physical. That is true. Many Liberians know how to talk plenty, like myself, but I know how to do the good job. Tell him Anthony will go frustrated soon. I don't know. Sam Wallow, stop it. No one is going to cheat anyone. The opposition has not gotten it out together in 5 years. They have defeated themselves. It seems to be Comrade Wallow is counting it out, given what he has seen so far. It is because of lack of system in our country. Let us hear from Emmanuel Bro Anthony. Just stop wasting your time. It's crystal clear that come what may, we, the vast majority of Liberians, will re-elect President George Manuel Weah in Liberia's presidential elections in 2023. He is a political prophet here. Jimmy again. That is the reason he is asking international community for financial assistance. More comments here. Let's hear from the man, Mr. Phillips again. There is nowhere in the world, except in North Korea, China, and other communist-leaning countries, that government builds so-called economies. Our country is a liberal democracy where competition is used to drive innovation and development. You are wrong, Mr. CA. Our government cannot and should not build any academy for soccer or other sports. It is a debate. I mean, you said in North Korea, in communist country, they are doing it. I think the communist people, their lives and conditions are better, right? In terms of infrastructure. You saw South Korea participating into the World Cup, in the World Cup. I think they did better. They qualified and they participated. They won some games too, maybe, right? But they are a communist nation. Does it mean that they are not human beings? Because it's democracy, you think it's best? Is that your logic? I live in America. This democracy is not perfect. It has never been. It will never be. It's a matter of choice. They all have their ups and downs, though. I mean, the responsibility of a government, as people will say, is to set the foundation to create an environment for others to thrive. We built the SKD, right? So what's wrong with building an academy? Did we not build schools and universities across the country? Are those things not for the benefit and improvement of the country's, people's life? And so we are a democracy, so we cannot build academy for people? What's wrong with that? Come on. Logic. Did his protest destroy Ellen's peace? Of course it didn't. Send Waller again. Waller is up to something here. Liberian opposition have continued to hold the country back for 17 years with intentional and deliberate economic sabotage, disguised protests. Every time there is a protest, investor go to the next country. I don't know where Waller is getting his numbers from. The CDC was protesting. Investors came to Liberia during Ellen's time. Waller, what are you talking about? Wallow, stop this thing, man. I agree. An investor can decide not to come to Liberia. I mean, the fact that we're not fighting war. What country does not have protests? America, protest. France, protest. Germany, I've not heard about protests in recent time in Germany. But England, protest. China, protest. Investors are going there. Americans are investing in China more than any other country. Have you done your research to see how many number of protests being held in China for this? Waller, you are a very smart guy. I know you little. So that's my response there. I like the debate. Let's do it. Hassan Khan, focus on Liberia. Need to start asking people at those intellectual forums if they are employed and who is responsible for their employment. This is a good suggestion. I will let my reporter know on the ground. to look into that because those guys are speaking so P English. Let us hear from Keller Vesson. Hello, Anthony. Say something. She said something. She said, hello, Anthony. Hello. Sam Wallow is based. Let me get to Vivi here. What happened when they were disenchanted in Ellen's time? Liberians have always been disenchanted. That is true. Let's hear from Banks. Banks, right? Illegal firearm charges are billable in Liberia and other countries except China and Canada. There are lots of illegal firearms out there around Monrovia. People have not been caught with them. That may be very true. Let us hear from another writer here. They are based here. Anthony. What Weah did was strategic. He diverted the conversation from his oversized and overstayed trip, and I think you are point on. She writes again. Can they please stop harassing Yeke? They keep going after him to the extent of seizing his salary for months. That is true. To the point of even seizing his baby food, baby formula at the airport. My memory is strong on this one. This is what I've committed myself to. Wallow again. He won't stop. Cummings is not the game anymore. He doesn't really want the job. He probably can't wait for election day to come and go do. He can. Wallow, what are you saying here, man? All right, let me continue. It's too overwhelming and too much deception brought on by his poor decisions. He spoke for less than 3 minutes at the protest with little energy. Cummings has not been a guy with energy. Louis Brown has been a guy with energy, and we all criticize him. Mr. Koji does the same thing that Mr. Calabar does. Why there hasn't been criticism against Mr. Koji? Like yeah, from Justina Beverly Pajivo, a dear sister, Mr. Cummings is not God. Yeke has the right to his freedom of speech. In America, people do the same, and she justifies for Cummings because she supports Mr. Cummings. That is what they do. But that is how I do mine too. I point at them. Why shouldn't ABC always hold the high ground? You haven't criticized the government for harassing Mr. Calabar. Of course I have. Like yeah, from Beverly again, because that's the language those ruthless sedition understand. Beverly is in a debate. Justina is in a debate. She is saying Yeke does the way he does it because that's the only language seditions understand. Oh my God. Then where do we go with that? At least thank God you are using your data to listen to him speaking cruel, and you are also encouraging his lies by listening. Oh, someone said my English sound like cruel. I mean, what do you expect? You expect a cruel man to speak like an American? I'm not an American. What do you expect? I'm a cruel man. I have to speak my English the way the cruel people would do, right? Let's hear from Hassan again. Liberians in the diaspora shouldn't sit by and watch our people back home make uninformed decision. I think he meant, that affect all of us. Lots of comments here. Let me hear from this writer. How can tire suffering Roddy could not carry tire suffering on the t-shirt instead of Cummings picture? And I think I was able to point that out as well. And this one from Focus on Liberia, I believe, is our dynamic CEO. He writes spectacular. Apparently, he's enjoying what I'm doing here. Let's hear from the man Ben Fim, who is a presidential candidate. Good afternoon, my dearest brother Anthony. Ben, you think you're gonna win this thing? It seems to be the other people, they are eating your lunch. And you stay in America. Yeah, when are you going to go to Liberia? Let's hear from Gerald Nathan Blair. Any update on Cummings Bolliger? I think I said that Cummings Bolliger has been charged and sent to court. He's been charged of illegal possession of a firearm because it was not established if he was able to get the blessing of the proper authority in Liberia to carry the firearm. There is a law under our penal code, which is chapter 17, section 17.11, that says, if you don't declare and register and give in the certificate of authorization to carry the firearm in Liberia, you are automatically in an illegal possession of firearm, and that is the violation of the law. So he has been charged by the government after being investigated by the Liberian National Police and has been forwarded to court. So he must be in court right now. Let's hear from the man Prince Peter. I said, Prince, I hope you're not using some undiluted words here. This idiot can't speak English, can't pronounce word, and lie. Go protest. If he failed to talk to your fake hateful hate position, sedition will celebrate our president. Weah, if you don't like it, died. I don't know if he's talking to me. Yeah, English is not my mother tongue, my dear friend. So if you think I'm not doing well, you who can do well, I celebrate you, I congratulate you. And this is how we do it here. We take all the criticism. We know we are not perfect. We don't know it all. This is why we need leadership in Liberia. Maybe if we have decided to make better our national language, I will be speaking better. Maybe if we had decided to make my crew, our national language, I will be speaking better. And some people will not have reasons, to criticize maybe my poor articulation of the English language. Hey, folks, I don't know it all. I struggle, but at least I hold my ground. And that is the beauty of it all. When you point to me that way, I reflect and come back better so that I can show you that I love you for that criticism and I will do well and I will do better. This is how we will come to the end of yet another edition of the Hour of Politics. I will close with this after this break. Folks, we are back with you. Before I give you a succinct closing for today's edition of the Hour of Politics, we want to advertise here so quickly. That on the 21st of this month, December, at the hour of 12 p.m. Eastern Time, and the 24th is Wednesday, by the way, Focus on Liberia will be in a conversation with the Liberian Diaspora Agriculture Group. This group is on a mission to ensure food sufficiency in Liberia. They will be hosting Liberia's first annual agriculture exposition. Again, they will be hosting Liberia's first annual agriculture exposition. Their mission here is to make food sufficiency a human rights issue in Liberia. Representing the group are Dr. Kima Dix, Ajivon, Actodo, Janice Gray, and Angie. They will be here, and you can count on me. I will be here, and I will be asking the questions, and they will be giving us the answers. What are they up to? You're talking about food sufficiency as a human right in Liberia. Do they have ideas to take our people out of abject poverty? I will be here to ask them those questions, and we will have that discussion. Now, the closing that you've been waiting for. Our nation's Liberia, when it comes to leadership, is in peril. And you don't believe it because you don't understand. Those who understand agree with me that our nation is in peril. I give you a little history here. There's a nation called Qatar. is a tiny Arab nation that just hosted the World Cup. The same way Liberia struggles today, in everything, Qatar was struggling. Even though it had enormous natural resources, oil, the Qatar people had to deal with poverty, lack of opportunity, and the lack of money to do these things they would have loved to do to improve the lives of their people. Leadership was that problem for them. They had the resources. Who could have provided the leadership to tap into that resources, to develop their country and give their people a befitting life, was the issue. Years later, they got it together. Qatar hosted the World Cup. That tiny nation hosted the World Cup. The next World Cup will be hosted by three of the most powerful economies in the world, countries that are far too larger and sophisticated than Qatar. The United States, the world power, is one of those countries. Canada is another country. And Mexico is another country. These three powerful countries will be hosting the World Cup. But Qatar, a tiny Arab nation, because it got its act together, was able to hold that global phenomenon. That is the power of leadership, and you Liberians need to get this thing to your head. Dubai, United Arab Emirates, they too were struggling. Maybe I shouldn't go that far. Let me bring you home to the land of Africa. Rwanda experienced war like we did. It would take a soldier who didn't have any sophistication when it comes to education. He was just a soldier out of high school. I'm not sure how much education he has. My reading told me that he does not have all the college degrees some of our leaders have. But the thing called leadership was in him. He had an idea of what to do and how to do it. He knew he couldn't do it alone. He needed to bring people. He knew the focus needed to be his people. He knew he needed to invest in his people. He knew that he needed to pump more money into empowering women and educating women and allowing women to participate in national government. My understanding is the parliament of Rwanda is dominated by women. Kigali is one of the cleanest cities in Africa today. Volkswagen has a plan. Cars are being manufactured in that African country of Rwanda. I'm not going to talk about the negatives, for there are. But I'm saying to you, leadership got them to where they are today, and they are respected among all African nations. Leadership, leadership, leadership. I will say no more. Maybe Ghana is not your perfect example. So I will say no more. So folks, when the people of India were being enslaved by the British and the need of freedom, it told a Gandhi homage and provided leadership for the people to get out of slavery and be able to enjoy freedom in their own land. When blacks in America needed freedom, when segregation was tearing them apart and racism of all sorts, it took a Baptist preacher called Dr. Martin Luther King. He, along with his colleagues, took up the matter of leadership to advocate, to protest, to march, and to walk. And he did that, and many joined him because he knew what he wanted was good, and he needed it for his people. He needed it for America. So that America came around. And we have leaders in that tiny West African nation of Liberia, which population is less than 6 million people. And we are suffering when we have abundant resources, and you worship leaders who will not even tell you their plan about your country. Seditions are the one that disgust me the most. Weah is blessed. Incredibly blessed. I can't think of any Liberian who is as blessed as Josh Weah. He went in the era of football with help from the likes of Samuel Doe. Weah will leave Liberia, will play in other nations, will capture the world, will become world best. The one and only African to have ever done that. That was his profession. He will retire. Got broke into politics. Didn't know about politics. He was even forced into it. That blessing follows him. For what he did with football, Liberian will choose him over all others, qualified, prepared, who have ever wanted this position. He got elected. When he got to business, it was about him. He enjoys it all. The ones for whom he said he wanted our power are in abject poverty. They are wearing slippers. They are suffering. And he justifies and gives excuses. And you call that leadership. And you think I'm hateful. You don't like your people. You don't love the very Weah. You don't even love your country. I'm talking about how do we better the lives of our people by providing excellent leadership for them. And you tell me I'm hateful? And you tell me I don't speak English? Has English gotten us anywhere? I love English. I love good speakers. I want to be the best when it comes to speaking this language. I think I may get to my own little space there. I trust myself, But hey, it's not about me. It's about the fact that as a people, we must be respected. We can't just be disrespected by our friends because of the decisions we make, because of the decision our leaders make, because of where we are and how we conduct ourselves among our friends. We will not be respected at all. I was reading yesterday, doing my research, and I decided to look at the African country called Namibia. But I don't have time, I have to go. Maybe I will close with that one day. Because when I start, what that in my head now about Namibia that I saw will blow your mind away, and I want to have another show. And I don't want to get in trouble with management here, so I have to leave you. My name is Mransie. My name is Anthony Sie. My name is Blossie. A woman called Blood Bommy. Another woman called Blood Remy. The fighting spirit of a woman is the most profound force you can ever think of. Criticism strengthens me. I just wish our leaders were that. But we can only hope. The song says we are all Liberians. And that song, as always and always, is taking us home, my fellow Liberians and friends of Liberia. And so until I catch you again with another edition of the Hour of Politics, probably an analytical one, enjoy the song We Are All Liberians for 1 minute. Maybe it will inspire in you nationalism, patriotism, and consciousness for you to see beyond your political leaders and make Liberia the centerpiece of your prayers for a suffering, weary, tired, and hungry people of Liberia. For this, they must and always be the focus. I thank you. My meaningless talk will not change Liberia. The work will do it. That's why your leaders must work and not talk. Bye-bye.
We are Liberians.